in mid-April, I went back in Florida. I went to Jacksonville, Orlando, the Villages, the Tampa Bay region, Southwest Florida, and of course back to South Florida where I live. Everywhere I went, as I interacted with small businesses, we did a lot of focus on recipients of PPP and how the program had helped them. Everywhere I went, I heard the same thing from people that didn't know each other. There's no way that they coordinated on this message. And it went something like this. We have 50 job openings. We can only get 5 people to even respond. Only 1 will come in for an interview, and then they didn't take the job when I offered it. Over and over and over again, hearing that from small businesses in various sectors. So not just restaurants and hotels and hospitality, but various other sectors as well, including one manufacturer. And when I asked, well, why is it? Why are people telling you that they're not going to do it? And the answer that people gave them was, look, I'm receiving unemployment benefits. It pays maybe not as much as I was making working, but pretty close. When those run out, I'm going to go back to work. That's what we're being told by small businesses. It's not what I'm saying. I'm not having a press conference here with you today to tell you that's what I believe. It's what I'm being told. So I'm here to tell you what small businesses are telling me, and I believe are telling everyone that's here. And that is that enhanced unemployment benefits are creating an incentive for people not to return to work until they expire. It's not because people are lazy. I'm not accusing anyone of being lazy. It's because people are logical. Because it's logic that if you're going to make close to what, or as much, or in some cases more than what you do when you're at work, you'll go back to work when that expires. We have a labor crisis in this country. I have a small business owner, owns a handful of restaurants in Miami, who has put up a sign on the door that says, due to the labor crisis, wait times for an hour or something along those lines, they just can't. A guy calls every day. We're having a labor crisis. Just like small business in particular got hit hard during the pandemic when they were shut down, they're now being hit hard again by a labor crisis that's not allowing them to open up to the levels that are allowed by local authorities. I heard the arguments that some make, and a lot of people contort themselves into a pretzel to try to come up with some explanation that has nothing to do with the benefits. People are afraid of getting COVID. People have nowhere to put their kids. I can't speak to the rest of the country. I can tell you in Florida, schools have been open since October, and you can literally walk into various retail establishments throughout the state and get a vaccine without an appointment. We now have probably more vaccines than willing recipients. So I think it's important for us to acknowledge that we have a labor crisis, that a government program has exacerbated it, and it's time to address it because we are doing significant harm to the ability of these small businesses to survive, to the point where some of them, by the time people are ready to go back to work in these cases, some of these small businesses won't be there to take them because they won't make it there, given what they've already lost.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a thought, not to jump in, but
Please.
how about this? We let them have a job and keep their unemployment benefits until they run out. How about that?
Yeah.
They're worried about COVID or whatever, during a pandemic.
COVID or whatever.
I felt like playing that in the beginning because I wanted to take a break from the Israel-Palestine stuff, which is a lot of the clips that we have. And I don't know. I think it's really interesting how this right-wing populism turn that, they're pretending to take turns really fast into admitting that it's kind of a small business populism. Like it's populism for the small business owner, pretty much. You know what I mean?
I remember not that long ago, a couple months ago, people, when Marco came out with that op-ed about Bessemer, and there was all this really there's this, we're getting real right-wing populism here. He's supporting, labor, which I actually did an article about that for Jacobin at the time called "Don't Be Fooled, Little Marco is Still an Enemy of Labor," and gotta say, right, the fact that he wants people to be that he thinks it's a big problem. That put aside whether he's even right about what's going on, and I don't think he is, but even if he was, that he's just openly saying, wow, guys, it's a big problem that people aren't desperate enough that they're forced to take these jobs.
And that's not what I think, that's what my paying contributors are telling me.
We gotta make sure that, that people are desperate and miserable enough that they'll take any job that they're offered.
I really didn't realize that people who lived in the villages were running small businesses on the side. I thought that was retirement central and that's it. It's over.
Yeah, I actually, it's kind of funny. I actually was in the Villages like a month ago or something.
Oh.
Because for a weekend, bizarre.
Wait, you went to the Villages for a weekend for a trip?
What I was doing is I was debating this libertarian economist Gene Epstein, and that's where the event was. And so they put me up in a hotel, so I was there for a couple days, and it was so strange. Like they had like some ridiculous number of people who live there, like their primary mode of transportation is like golf carts. So I saw more golf carts like those couple days than I had like in the previous 41 years of my life, and so that was strange. You would not know that there was a pandemic going on, like like walking around there, like you would not guess that was a thing.
Apparently, neither does Marco Rubio or any of the small business owners that he's talking to. So I guess that kind of bears out. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Said they have more vaccines than people who want to get vaccinated, and I'm like, I don't think that's a population thing. I think that's a vaccine skepticism thing.
No, exactly. I mean, it's like, that Villages went like 70% or something to Trump. Like, I'm sure there's tons of vaccine skepticism there. And yeah, I mean, at this event, like, they told me, because I was like a little antsy about it, because like I had my second shot, but it was going to be a little before the 14 days, and we were going through the logistics. They're like, oh, it's okay, we'll only sell it at half capacity, and people will be seated 6 feet apart from each other. Maybe it was at half capacity. I did not see a lot of people sitting 6 feet 6 feet apart from each other, but yeah, no, I mean, like, it's also actually in the Villages. That's like a particularly weird example for Little Marco's complaint there, because it's not like, I didn't understand. It's like they got all these stores. Like, where do they expect people who work at these stores in the Villages to live? They can't live there, right? Like, are you supposed to commute from Orlando? I mean, how far are you supposed to go there? So I mean, just the idea, some like small bit, like some small business or franchise owner in the Villages is whining to Marco Rubio that like nobody's desperate enough to commute for an hour to work their shitty minimum wage job. It's like I don't know. I'm not that impressed by the kind of populism that cares about that.
It's a weird, yeah, exactly, and it's a weird thing because we're supposed to be able to relate to small businesses because perhaps we're aspirational about wanting a small business. And so instead of thinking about like myself as a person in the audience, I'm supposed to think about, if I had a small business, I would really want those, dog whistle people of color to get off their ass and give back their benefits, quote unquote, to come and work there. He said, "Oh, it's not about being lazy." Well, who said that? Who was that? Did someone say that, or were you just,
I'm not saying that. An interesting point about the lazy thing is, the thing where he says it's not that people are lazy, it's that people are logical. I saw like a Tucker Carlson clip where he was talking about he was like pushing like the same messaging pretty much, and he used the exact same phrase. He said it's not that people are lazy, it's that people are logical. So they're all kind of moving in tandem on this messaging, and I find it really interesting. And then obviously another clip that we'll watch a little bit or at some point in this is the Biden talking about unemployment fraud, and it's like an extremely 90s Clinton-esque like welfare reform style, like, oh, we're going to make sure that nobody defrauds the system, like people are defrauded. So it's like the Republicans all push in on this like vanguard messaging pretty much for like with small, it's like petite bourgeois populism. Like that's really what it is. Like the when Republicans see their constituencies, they know that the being the party of big business is unpopular, but being the party of like small businesses is their version of populism. They can't even see themselves even having a mental connection with workers in any way, shape, or form. So it's interesting. They all push in on the small business messaging because there are a lot of small business owners in every town, and they really are like they're I don't know, they're abhorrent a little bit. Like they probably do all lobby as like some kind of like these chamber of commerce groups that come in and say we need more people to come in and work, and then the Republicans are more than happy to cut all of these benefits for workers because but like, just, I don't know. I was just disgusted by the fact that he's like, oh, people are worried about getting COVID or whatever. Like, it's a fucking pandemic. Like,
yeah, it kills you. It's the real.
Yeah. People are worried about like gasping for breath at a ventilator or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. This whole thing about the small businesses, it's like many people want there to be small businesses, and by small I mean like less than 1,000 employees. I mean like 4 employees. They own the coffee shop. They have the coffee. They own the taco truck. Like that is a small business that I would like to see supported. Not because I don't want everything to be a big box Costco everywhere, right? So it also plays into that messaging of like Main Street, oh, remember when we had Main Street? Yeah, before you and your party like just deregulated everything and allowed everything to go wild.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a consumer, I mean, I don't, want everything to be a chain. I like small, restaurants and bars and coffee shops and bookstores as much as anybody does. But it's also, I wish more of them were worker cooperatives, but that's a separate discussion. I think that the larger question though is, who is this for, right? Like who's the like, oh, if you're gonna do populism, right? Who's the populace, right? That you're serving, because most people aren't ever going to own their own business. They might want to, right? They might like the idea, but they won't do it. Or if they do it, they're not going to do it for long, because it's most small businesses fail in the first 5 years, and then you're right back to the working class. Most people have to work as employees, for a living, and it's like, if you're going to claim to be a populist, that you're serving the interests of the people, that's most of the people. And like the really amazing thing about this like Republican talking point that they're all like, robotically parroting, you say, oh, it's not lazy, it's logical, right? It's like so carefully calibrated, like they've got a team of consultants, to figure it out.
There's no way around that. You can't tell. I said I just shot it down in 1 second. I'm like, yeah, well, you could just not take away the unemployment benefits.
Yeah, you can
also have a job for small business and for people.
If you don't want the reverse incentive, let people keep the benefits and get the job. Then they would have no incentive.
That's logical. You know what I mean? Like,
and like it's so blatant that they're just not pretending that what they're saying is in the interests of most people who have to work. I mean, the message for most people is, we want you to be so desperate that you have no option except to take this miserable minimum wage job while COVID is still going on, and you might be you might still be worried about your safety. Like that's just like it's really.
You might have also had like a huge devastating blow to your family.
Right.
Somebody, 4 people have to move in with each other because somebody lost the house. It's still just going on and on and on for people in their personal lives, and it's like, oh, well, we could take our masks off now, and there's a vaccine, so I guess it's all fine, it's all done. It's not.
Well, because they never wanted it to, they never wanted any of the response to happen in the first place. At least the more disgusting Republicans like Marco Rubio and the small business owners. But I mean, I think the messaging goes back to like even like the Reagan era, with the obsession with like entrepreneurs. Like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur because in the age of neoliberalism, it's more like you're probably not going to start like a startup company and then become like this massive business anymore. Like the amount of those businesses are very small, so it's a more obtainable goal to push the ruling classes. The ruling classes, all of the same things that they want, which is gutting the welfare state, making sure that employees, like labor, doesn't have any power. But then it's kind of like a more down home kind of face to it, which is the small business owner, and it weirdly enough works. I don't know. People seem like they're constantly worried about small business owners. Like, you work for one, they don't pay you fucking minimum wage. A lot of these restaurants don't even have people on the books. Like, they're not even concerned about paying people minimum wage, even if they had to. So I don't know. It's Marco Rubio is kind of the most despicable face of this, I feel like.
I think that's a super good point, especially the thing about the entrepreneurs. Why does everyone want to be an entrepreneur? Because being in the labor class sucks ass. So everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It's kind of true. You know, a successful entrepreneur, as you rightly point out, is going to be much more difficult. But as you point out, Ben, and I used to host the Capitalism Hits Home podcast at the Democracy at Work with Richard Wolff and that great team over there. We're always talking about worker co-ops. Being a laborer in your own worker co-op would not be so soul-sucking, crushing, terrifying, like that your place is just going to pick up and leave you after 20 years with nothing. Right. If there were co-ops, and being part of that class would actually be something.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're, you know, like, yeah, you want to, you know, like, and I understand, right? I mean, the thing that causes, like, you know, a big part of what makes people want to, you know, be entrepreneurs is that, you know, say, like, it's a cliche, right? You know, you want to be your own boss, you know, but of course, if you're doing that in a traditional capitalist business, you know, by definition, you know, like, that's, you are your own boss, and then, like, if it gets big enough, their employees, they aren't, right? You know, but if it's a co-op, you know, everybody gets to collectively, you know, be their own boss. And so when it comes to decisions like any of these things, you know, what's too soon to reopen, as like a pandemic in some messy and complicated way is finally starting to end, you know, whatever the right answer is. Like, if you at least get to democratically decide that answer for yourself, you know, like, okay, sure, nobody wants the place to go out of business, but also, right, you know, we're concerned about our safety. How are we going to balance that, right? If you get to decide, right, rather than just being forced to accept your boss's, you know, decision, you know, because your unemployment benefits are cut off, and, you know, and you have to.
Wouldn't it have been great to just be in the audience and be like, what do you think about UBI?
Yeah.
And we're UBI, then wouldn't you have to make the place that I work really great for me? Like, wouldn't that be good? It's not, you know, it's not logic. It's not lazy. It's logic. It's like, yeah, it is logical to not want to be abused every day for 8 to 12 hours a day. That is pretty logical.
Yeah. Which C. Honey Burns, cat grooming, that's a callback to that debate in at the Villages during the like audience you know, Q&A thing. There was this guy who was like, oh, I have this small cat grooming business, and, like, why shouldn't I be able to yeah. See, they're like, you know,
I'm working right now. Yeah.
I mean, why shouldn't I be able to, if I want to hire somebody and they accept the job for less than minimum wage, you know, like, what are you gonna, you know, basically the suggestion was that, like, I was an authoritarian, I wanted to, like, throw them in prison or something for you know, for like to enforce minimum wage laws. So yeah, those are the people that we're talking about. The cat groomer guy from Florida.
But, you know, it's really, you're able to take somebody like that, like with a small business, and as sympathetic as they seem, I guess, when Marco Rubio maybe brings them up in a speech to other small business owners, like, you're able to transfer the things that the ruling class and, like, you know, the actual corporate CEOs want. You're able to transfer that to that small business owner. So, like, when they talk about a labor shortage and how, like, restaurants can't find employees, like, there's a lot of abhorrent restaurant owners that are trying to get away with paying, like, absolutely nothing under the table to people, or barely anything, you know, because you don't have to pay a minimum wage even to restaurant workers, like that are concerned about this. But at the same time, like, obviously the thing that it helps out the most is corporations, but it's not popular to talk about corporations. You know, it's not popular to be the party of, like, big money. So now they're the party of small money, which kind of is the, you know, is the popular, like, the quote unquote populism that they're going for. But I don't know. I think it's funny also that it keeps getting smaller and smaller. Like, going from everyone in America wants to be like a millionaire, everyone in America wants to be a billionaire, like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and own their own business to like this point, it's like everybody wants to be like an entrepreneur and own their own village, like their own business in the villages, like and service all of like the old people in their local.
Yeah.
I don't think capitalism breeds like, you know, the motivation and innovation that they think it does. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, and again, I mean, I think Juliana's point earlier, yeah, sure. I mean, I can sympathize much more easily with somebody who, you know, owns a corner coffee shop or something, you know, than with somebody who's like the CEO of Monsanto, no doubt about it. But also, like, what's the thing that guy who owns that corner coffee shop is really worried about, right? Like, why is it, right, that it's important that he's a business owner? As Juliana says, it's because being in the labor class sucks, right? Like that if he didn't own his own small business, he would be right back in the working class, you know, having to work for somebody like him. And that maybe gives you a clue as to
That reminds me of why I went from improv to stand-up, because I was like, if I'm going to fail at this, it's going to be on me. I'm not going to have to deal with everybody forgetting to come to the meeting. You know, it's like, so there's, I don't know, there's, even if it's terrible, you're going to be more empowered that it's yours, I guess. Nobody really wants a boss.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh yeah, that's the map.
This is I thought about this a lot lately when I was thinking about this, because, you know, it's talking about how, you know, the connections that obviously you make with a small business employer, like, you know, they're more likely to be able to pay you less than minimum wage because you have like this personal connection to them, and they're able to kind of like force that out of you rather than big business, which, you know, you have a corporate overlord and it's less of a sympathetic you know, like, and there's no hope of even like offering, you know, labor protections or, you know, even minimum wage in some cases with a lot of these small businesses.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. The cat groomer guy probably can get away with paying somebody under the table, you know, less than minimum wage. And I think I would add to or complicate Matt's point there is just like, I mean, it's a really simple point, but like we could have, you know, we could have like mom and pops that, you know, that we all like value as consumers. Like we could have that. Without any of this, if they're worker owned, so mom and pop aren't the only ones who have a vote, and you know, like there's no reason that, you know, that we can't have both. You can have the coffee shop on the corner, but it can be owned by the workers, so they get to decide, you know, when they're ready to open up after COVID. But on that note, let's watch the Sleepy Joe clip. Here he is.
I'm going to make it clear that anyone collecting unemployment who is offered a suitable job must take the job or lose their unemployment benefits. There are a few COVID-19 related exceptions, so that people aren't forced to choose between their basic safety and a paycheck. But otherwise, that's the law. I know there's been a lot of discussion since Friday's report, that people are being paid to stay home rather than go to work. Well, we don't see much evidence of that. That is a major factor. We don't see that. Look, it's easy to say, the line has been, because of the generous unemployment benefits, that it's a major factor in labor shortages. Americans want to work. Americans want to work. As my dad used to say, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity, your place in the community, being able to look your kid in the eye and say everything's going to be okay. I think the people who claim Americans won't work, even if they find a good and fair opportunity, underestimate the American people. So we'll insist that the law is followed with respect to benefits, but we're not going to turn our backs on our fellow Americans. 22 million people lost their jobs in this pandemic through no fault of their own. They lost their jobs to a virus and to a government that bungled its response to the crisis and failed to protect them. We still have 8 million fewer jobs than we did when the pandemic started. And for many of those folks, unemployment benefits are a lifeline. No one should be allowed to game the system, and we'll insist the law is followed, but let's not take our eye off the ball. Families families who are just trying to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head. They aren't the problem. We need to stay focused on the real problems in front of us, beating this pandemic and creating jobs. Again, the law is clear. If you're receiving unemployment benefits and you're offered a suitable job, you can't refuse that job and just keep getting the unemployment benefits.
Yeah. So, like, what Biden, I got to say, like, Trump was a monster. He did like basically negligent mass murder during COVID. He separated families. I had nothing to say. I mean, look, I was willing to hold my nose, my swing state, for Biden. So, not a Trump apologist, but I am a fan of his stand-up work. Like I think Trump is an insult comic during the Republican primaries in 2016. Like politics aside, you have to admire that. All of Trump's nicknames make me laugh. It's Little Marco, Sleepy Joe.
I love how for me, Joe Biden is like going to visit grandpa and you feel okay after. And again, this goes back to our conversation about how people over the last 4 years, if they weren't addicted to fear from the media's constant fear mongering before, it's really hard to make everyone's like, oh my God, I need my hit. People are like in detox fast because he is just like, I'm just gonna, okay, everyone please exit through the rear door. It's just very calm and reasonable. He was doing some dog whistly stuff there in his response, but it was still very calm and reasonable dog whistling, as opposed to, just like I couldn't watch Trump. It was too hard. I had to read about it later.
Probably after 4 years of Trump, people were ready for a sleepy president. So fair enough.
The NyQuil president.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to watch
after 4 years of cocaine, we were ready for a little NyQuil.
I like to watch.
That should have been Biden's campaign slogan.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like on the substance of it, all Sleepy Joe and Little Marco were really disagreeing about is just how much it's happening, right? Like how many people are actually, not aggressively seeking jobs, because they're, because they're on better, they don't want to lose the benefits, or, whatever. Without the benefits, maybe they'd find a job. And whatever. I mean, I'm sure Biden's right. Like, I think that it is like wildly exaggerated. How much that's going on. But notice that, to Julianna's point earlier about UBI. I mean, that on the principled issue, Biden and Rubio agree. Say, yeah, no, absolutely. We got to make sure the law is enforced. We got to make sure. That nobody is allowed to keep their benefits if there's any awful, miserable minimum wage job that would have them. And there is that really easy solution. Just say, look, for the next, pick a number of months, right? Everybody, or I mean, whatever, forever would be nice too. But but even short of that, right? Just pick a number of months and say, everybody can, can keep their benefits, and there's no, you can whether you're working or not, right? You still get the same benefits. There's no incentive not to, not to work if you want to, but also nobody's forced by the whip of desperation, to go suck it up and take any job that'll have them.